Thank you, Chairman sir. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about packaging safety aspects of paper in food packaging applications. So as you know, the packaging material is one of the important class of material which can prevent the damage of food from spoilage from external environmental conditions. So the majority people know that the function of packaging material. So the function of packaging material is to protect food from the external environment in a simple term. In other way, so the packaging material should have some functional properties. Otherwise, the packaging material itself cannot be used for food applications. So the important parameter of packaging material, function of packaging material to avoid contamination from the external sources, especially mechanical damage, light protection and all other environmental like bacterial, all these things. So they tend to react with the food because food is always complex molecule. So food is having different kind of chemical structures. So they are ready to react with because they are highly hygroscopic in nature and they are readily attacked by the microorganism as they are edible. So due to this high complexity of food, so the packaging material should be a good protective material from the external environmental condition. So and also it has to preserve. How packaging material can preserve? So by inducing the internal properties such as barrier properties like mechanical, water barrier, oxygen barrier, which are readily spoil the food. And as you know, packaging is a silent salesman and very convenient to use for carrying the food. Okay, so how to select packaging material, because not all material can go for all kind of food application. So we have beverages packaging material where we need highly inert material which will not react with the packaging material, and we have a single use material of disposable. Immediately you can have food and you can throw it. So in such cases we can use cellulosic based or any other paper based, but whereas you want a packaging material, food material which is a longer shelf life, so you need a highly inert material. So in that way, so we have to know all the parameters like the product pack contents, application of the product and stability of the content. All these things should be considered before using for packaging application in the area of food. So as you already know, the many kind of packaging material is there. The very important packaging material that is directly in contact with the food is very important. That is called primary packaging. So the how much ever focus has been there on developing food packaging, the majority packaging material is direct contact with the food. That is very important. That is called primary packaging. And secondary, tertiary, also you already know this, no need to give much introduction. So the prime area is for food is primary packaging material. So as you already know, we have various kind of packaging material: metals, plastics, ceramic and even glass and paper. So compared to all other materials, so glass and plastics and metals, so they have better property than paper, because paper itself is highly hydrophilic in nature. So anything is packed inside packaging inside paper. So we have a lot of problem as itself the cellulosic material itself has highly porous structure, as well as it is readily react with this one and have less moisture barrier property. All these things have been taken care by the pulp and paper industry before going for food grade packaging. So I would like to just show the major paper based food packaging material according to good manufacturing practice from the literature. So as this I am very small to explain because you already know better than me. So all these craft paper, bleached paper and paper board materials. So these are the major food grade paper based packaging material. So as you know, paper as such we cannot use for food application. We need to use a barrier coating. So that barrier coating is a primary contact with the food material. So that is known as that we call as a saving material, or we can call as the barrier coating avoiding the reaction of the food with the cellulosic nature of paper, which is porous in structure. So, and I don't need to give major introduction about the coatings, barriers and all, because many dignitaries are already talking about. So, the paper need to coated with the barrier material which is hydrophobic in nature. So, most of the time for the paper we use polyethylene because it has very good sealing property. In the case of Tetra Pak also we use polyethylene. So any paper based packaging material which is used for shorter and long term application, which is majorly PE coated. So okay, PE barrier is the primary contact in the food. Okay, so when you have this primary coating, what are the demerits or what are the disadvantages from these materials? So when you talk about paper, and we cannot avoid the plastic. The reason is the majority paper based long term packaging material has all this kind of plastic material as a barrier coating. So and we know that plastics have been used as a better barrier material for the paper for long term application. So let me tell about the concern about the work. What is the issue with the paper based packaging material? So we have paper which is hydrophilic material, and we have a barrier coating of hydrophobic material, and you are going to pack your food in that packaging material. So now according to the nature of the food, because food itself complex material, so it has a different chemical structure. We have alcoholic foods, acidic foods, we have water as a food, and all these kind of foods have a different reactivity, and we are having a paper based food packaging material at different time, temperature and different mechanical conditions where it is transported, and many other conditions are there. So all these parameters also we should consider during usage of paper based food packaging material. There are some contamination occur due to the packaging material. So that phenomena is called migration. So migration of chemical substance from the packaging from the paper based packaging material, or we can call as a from the packaging material, because we cannot say as a completely paper, because paper has a layer of barrier material. So from packaging materials there is a chance of migration of chemicals. Okay, so these migrating chemicals are harmful to the human being. The regulations always say like that. So migration is a diffusion phenomena. So compared to plastics, many research articles shows that paper has more migration of chemical compounds compared to plastics. And we know the migration of chemical compound depending upon various condition like temperature, pH, light and mechanical other properties. So to determine the migration of chemical compound, we will use two different kind of mechanism according to the regulations. So one is overall migration and specific migration. Overall migration specifies that the amount of substances coming from the packaging material into the food completely we will take as a overall mass. Thus that mass will be determined using the gravimetric method. That is known as overall migration. So overall migration will give idea about the number the total amount of substances migrating from the plastic packaging material. So for that we use Bureau of Indian Standard, US FDA standard, as per the limits we will use. Okay. So the specific migration that we are going to determine is the amount of specific substance. For example, you want to determine the PFAS migrating from plastic. if we want to determine the amount of lead coming from the packaging material, paper-based packaging material. So that can be determined specifically. So using majorly we will use European Union standard 10/2011. So this is specific migration analysis. So the specific migration analysis itself is very complicated. So we have a food contact material. According to regulation, we will take the packaging material, we will expose with the food simulant, because it is very difficult to determine the migration analysis of substance from packaging to food, because food itself is a highly complicated and it has a lot of contamination before processing itself sometime. So in that case, the regulations always give an idea about the utilization of simulant. For example, water kind of aqueous foods, we will use water as a simulant. For alcoholic application, we will use alcohol, ethanol as a simulant. For fatty foods, we will use N-heptane and 95% ethanol as a simulant according to EU and BIS standard, like that. So we will use these simulant conditions at various temperature according to the application of food, and we will be extracting it, and we will be measuring the amount of substance coming from that packaging material. That is that we will be doing by using ICP analysis for metal analysis. We will use GCMS, LCMS for other phthalates and PFAS, other specific migrants. This is the way to determine the migration analysis. So even though we have a good regulation for specific migration of plastic sample according to European Union 10/2011, so still paper need to be done in terms of specific migration analysis. So we actually according to the BIS standard for migration analysis, paper coated sample, and we'll use US FDA sample, US FDA method to determine the overall migration of the packaging material. So these are the limits of heavy metals migrating from packaging material into food and their limits. Okay, so if we determine according to this one, we can use we can determine the migration analysis. And some cases, like when we use short-term application like teacups, so this study shows there is a chance of migration of microplastics. So and for long-term application also, if we see the liquid packaging milk has more amount of migration of PFAS compared to solid foods. So if we consider all these things, even paper, if you throw it also, if you laminate with polyethylene, you will have microplastic migration. So we at CFTRI will measure the overall and specific migration analysis of paper and paper-based packaging material. Even we can measure the composition analysis, and industries can utilize this testing facility, and we have enable accreditation certificate for this, and with this this one. And recently bio-based materials are also coming, but regulations are not yet done. So regulation need to be done for the bio-based coating materials. So finally, if we have edible and greener one, we can make greener packaging material and sustainable packaging material. Thank you for giving this opportunity. First of all, let me acknowledge our respected director madam, and my co-author Dr. Kesamurthy sir, Dr. Arun Kumar sir, and very interestingly, I would like to acknowledge our head of the department, Professor Mache sir, for giving this great opportunity. And last but not least, and I thank IPTA also for giving this opportunity. Thank you, sir.